On this edition of the Mad Cow Morning News Show, when a courageous U.S. attorney in San Diego's investigation began to focus in on who was draining away hundreds of millions of dollars from the U.S. defense budget, she paid the price. And not even the U.S. Senate could save her. From the Silencing of Carol Lam. One plausible explanation why San Diego U.S. Attorney Carol Lam was fired is that she already knows too much. And this is a rapidly spreading scandal which could prove hard to contain. With the trillion-dollar war going badly, some of America's top lawmakers, including Duncan Hunter, now running for president, and Randy Cunningham, now bunking in a federal prison, awarded tens of millions of dollars worth of defense contracts that did nothing to make this nation safer. Yet they couldn't find the money to pay for effective body armor for the troops. And it's cost hundreds of young Americans their lives. Is the major media talking about it? It's like we're living in a bad dream. And it's the 50s all over again.
Dream when you're feeling blue. Dream, that's the thing to do.
So what's it all mean? What is it they don't want us to know? Lam was getting close to massive corruption, even higher up on the food chain than Randy Duke Cunningham. In the black budget, the secret CIA and defense contracts with virtually no oversight, her testimony reveals a hint of the fireworks to come in the Hookergate scandal, a secret, still sealed indictment.
Is it fair to say that even though there was a conviction in the Duke Cunningham case, there may also be other ongoing investigations that could stem from that case?
Before I left office on February 15th, the office did bring an indictment against Dusty Foggo and Brent Wilkes, as well as, indictments were brought in those two cases, and at that time our office announced that that the investigation was ongoing.
We have no idea why no one in the major media has picked up on this most important disclosure in Lam's testimony. What she says is, the office brought indictments against Dusty Foggo, Brent Wilkes, as well as, and then she stops herself. Whose name comes after as well as? Was her firing to prevent us from ever finding out? Carol Lam's investigation was shut down when she got too close to massive CIA corruption. And it's happened before. A trial underway right now in an Arkansas courtroom has eerie parallels to the Lam case and shows who suffers the deadly consequences when investigations into CIA corruption get shut down.
Testimony continues in the corruption trial of former Lone Oak Police Chief Jay Campbell.
The trial continues against the former Lone Oak Police Chief and his wife, Jay and Kelly Campbell. Top story, more allegations of drug use in the trial of the former Lone Oak Police Chief, his wife, and a bail bondsman.
The trial against the former Lone Oak Police Chief and his wife continues. The two are charged with being part of a continuing criminal organization seeking drugs, sex, and money.
Meet Jay Campbell, an Arkansas police chief at the center of a sweeping corruption trial, charged with running a sheriff's office as a continuing criminal enterprise. How does a trial of an alleged corrupt Southern sheriff throw light on the firing of a U.S. attorney in San Diego? Because Jay Campbell was the beneficiary of a CIA-engineered cover-up 20 years ago, which also included the firing of a courageous prosecuting attorney, just like Carol Lam. 20 years ago, Jay Campbell, then a narcotics investigator for the Arkansas State Police, was under suspicion in the murder of two high school boys who stumbled onto a drug drop he was allegedly protecting for an arms and cocaine trafficking operation in Arkansas being run by the CIA to support the Nicaraguan Contras. And that's when this woman, Jean Duffy, a prosecutor heading a federally funded drug task force looking into the boys' murders, lost her job.
My opinion has been involved is a CIA perhaps a CIA rogue operation conducted by CIA operatives to smuggle drugs into the United States from South America, specifically using Barry Seal's drug smuggling operation in Mena.
This is at the heart of what came to be known as the Iran-Contra scandal. A number of years ago, we did a documentary about it. Despite widespread suspicion in the small town outside Little Rock where the murders occurred, Campbell, a longtime close friend of politically well-connected and convicted cocaine distributor Dan Lassiter, was never investigated for the murders. Duffy got death threats. She even had to leave the state in fear for her life. Compared with Jean Duffy, Carol Lam got off easy. But nobody in the major media is talking about the sinister implications of the Campbell scandal either. Instead, perhaps understandably, they're focused on one of his co-defendants. The sheriff's wife liked to have sex with the prisoners.
Witnesses testified today on Kelly Campbell's interactions with prisoners.
The Arkansas Department of Corrections inmate Shane Scott was on the stand again today. He has testified he and Kelly Campbell had a sexual relationship. Today, Scott said that Jay Campbell was okay with that.
Scott also testified that Kelly told him she and Jay were swingers and that the police chief wanted a threesome with them. He claimed Kelly also told him Jay Campbell was fine with her having an affair as long as he had access to illegal drugs. Inmate Tim Ainsworth testified he had sexual relations with Kelly Campbell initiated by her. He testified she even gave him these pictures of herself posing suggestively. Ainsworth claims he had sex with her 5 times, twice in an alley behind the Lone Oak jail, once in her truck, once in the police chief's office, and once in Jay and Kelly Campbell's bedroom. Andrew Baker testified he took pictures of the police chief's wife with another prisoner, showing her in his arms, kissing him, and posing together. Inmate Baker didn't go into specifics about the relationship, but did say life was good as a prisoner in Lone Oak.
Sheriff Campbell's wife's fondness for inmates reveals nothing about the firing of Carol Lam, and we freely admit to including it for purely gratuitous purposes. But it does illustrate the amazingly above-the-law attitude of the sheriff and those around him. Campbell is even accused of soliciting criminals to sell crack.
2 former convicted drug dealers took the stand, one testifying that he sold drugs to Kelly, the other dealer saying he sold crack for Jay.
The prosecution also called former drug dealer 26-year-old Dexter Washington. Under oath, Washington recalls a former meeting with Jay Campbell, testifying that Campbell allegedly wanted Washington to sell crack for him. At the alleged meeting, Washington says Campbell handed him a package containing crack, and Campbell said he wanted $2,000 for it. The remaining money collected, according to Washington, would be his to keep. Washington says the second time he decided to keep the money because he was behind on rent. Then, according to Washington, he was picked up by 2 Lone Oak City policemen for having no driver's license.
Of course, when the county sheriff controls the drug trade, it gives him all kinds of leverage. But here's the truly amazing thing. This is the other man suspected of being involved, along with Campbell, in the Boys on the Tracks murders 20 years ago. Dan Harmon was the local prosecuting attorney at the time. He was later convicted of running his office as a continuing criminal enterprise, too, and also of trafficking narcotics.
Accused of racketeering and drug offenses is a free man today. Harmon was released from federal custody yesterday while he awaits his trial. Harmon maintains his innocence and says he is a victim of government harassment.
20 years later, his fellow suspect, Sheriff Campbell, is on trial for the same thing. Is this just a coincidence? Or does this suggest that both men worked for a shadowy, unnamed organization that, among other things, traffics in narcotics? And so we come to the big question that isn't being asked anywhere else. Randy Cunningham, Brent Wilkes, Dusty Foggo, Mitchell Wade, all conspired to defraud the U.S. government of tens of millions of dollars, but were they merely independent contractors out to satisfy their own selfish greed? Or were they working for the same shadowy organization which appears to employ corrupt law enforcement officials in Arkansas, and perhaps many other places as well?